Hey everyone, good morning. It is it is Monday morning. It is Monday morning and spiritual healthcare day 45. Day 45, can you believe it? It's just crazy. It's hard to believe that it's day 45 already. Like this is wild. But I am glad to be here. It is awesome to see everybody coming in this morning. We've got some really cool stuff today and some really good news as well. So I am really excited to get this off and running. So it's nice to see everybody. Good morning, Des and Mark and Patricia. Nice to see you guys. It's always so good to see everybody coming in this morning. We've got a great topic today, and as I say, as well as some really cool news. So I'm excited to share all of that with you guys. And talking about visions and creating a vision and what that's going to mean going forward. Good morning, Ed. Nice to see you. Good morning, Stephanie. Oh, thank you. She says she likes my headband. It is cool. It's got like a sort of like this sort of snake pattern on it, and whatever. It's kind of neat. It's shiny. It's it's shiny. It's what happens. It's what happens when I didn't feel like really putting too much work into my hair this morning. That's what it is. That's what this is right now. Yeah, it's rainy here. It's really humid here today. So today was not going to be a good hair day. So the headband went on. That's my story. That's what happened. So Jay, nice to see you. Good morning, Darren. It's good to see you guys. Yeah, it is this. So this is going to be so cool this morning. I'm excited about this because I want to talk to you guys about why in so many paranormal instances we see the phenomenon happening over and over and over again in different homes. Like people talk about how families, will move and move and move and move and move, and it doesn't seem to matter what happens. They can't seem to get away from it, or it's generational or whatever. And what that's here to teach us, as well as life lessons and why this happens. Because it's not just in the paranormal we see this, is it? Like it's all the time. Some people see it in relationships where it's like bad relationship after bad relationship, or they see it in jobs where they lose a job, get a job, lose a job, get the job, can't seem to maintain stuff. And so we see it in more than just the paranormal world. We see it in a few different areas of our lives. So I want to talk about why that happens, and what we can do to stop it, as well as what creating that vision can look like for us, so that we can stop it. Good morning, Brandy. Good morning, Kaz. Nice to see you guys. It's always so good to see everybody. I love it in the morning. It's just so nice to see everybody logging in. So I wanted to start today, as I say, with some really cool news. And I will send the link and stuff like that. I'll talk about this at the end as well, so that you guys can log in if you want and try this out. I ended up a while back being a part of a course or at least adding to this amazing talk by the Windbridge Institute. Okay, so I want to tell you guys a little bit about Windbridge before we get going, because they are such a phenomenal couple and huge group of people. Their advisory board is made up of the best minds in psychology and neuroscience and bereavement, all of these different categories. They just from universities all over the world. And they really are focused on understanding that connection with non-physical, understanding how it happens, understanding our brains, understanding mediumship, understand all of that stuff. Like they're really focused in with that. And I have been really fortunate because I've always been a huge supporter of their work. These guys are the real deal. And over the last little while, they've been putting together this fantastic, what was going to be a talk on art and psi. So the relationship between like art and our minds, and that creative connection to non-physical and psi and paranormal phenomenon. And they came to me a little while ago and asked me if I could contribute to that, because they really loved my work with fire arts and parapsychology. So anyway, this is the cool part. This is what I'm excited about. So they have decided, and the Rhine Institute have decided, the Rhine Education Center has decided that they are going to, not only have they created a talk about it, but they have actually turned it into an entire course that you guys can take online through the Rhine. And for those of you guys who don't know the Rhine, it is probably one of the chief parapsychology units in the world. It used to be out of Duke University, and then it got so big it kind of separated into its own thing. But it's incredible. It's a phenomenal, of course, founded by J.B. Rhine, and his work with psi. He worked on some incredible cases and pioneered so much research. And it's just the coolest thing. So anyway, so this course on art and parapsychology is going to be offered through the Rhine, and the link went up today. And as I say, I'm featured in it doing talking about fire and performances and all sorts of things like that, and talking about how it relates to parapsychology. So the idea behind this course, it's 4 weeks long. And basically it's asking, do you bring your creativity or artistic inspiration to your everyday task or even your scientific endeavors? So it's designed for artists, creative people, scientists, anyone who's got that sense that creativity and human consciousness work together to manifest and create and things like that. So it's really, really exciting. Tuition is $80. $79, as I say, through the Rhine. And I'm just super excited to be a part of it. So I wanted to share that with you guys so that you guys could partake if you want. And I think it's just the coolest thing. So anyway, so yeah, I'm now part of a course at the Rhine Education Center. I think that's really cool, and I'm just honored to do it because the amazing people from Windbridge, amazing people from Windbridge, it's always such an honor to work with them and be a part of what they do because they are amazing. So that being said, the topic that I really want to cover today, that I really want to get into, because I've had a lot of people asking me about this subject in general, as we kind of move through the pandemic, and people are, of course, self-isolating and wanting to know what to do when they feel like they've got this sort of family generational problem of either like negative hauntings or something that they don't like that's going on. And they see it, interestingly enough, as separate from the rest of their life experience, which is bizarre because, as I say, we see this pattern over and over and over again in our lives in other areas, such as the idea that we get into a ton of bad relationships or a ton of bad jobs or however it's showing up for you in your life. And we tend to think of the haunting idea as separate, and it really isn't. So what I've come to understand is that life and the universe, not only is it a mirror, as we've talked about, but it is also, it also puts us in a situation where it tends to repeat the things that we haven't figured out. So if we've got, for example, some sort of energy or internal dialogue that's going on about us that is, I'm not worthy, or I'm not enough, or I have to do X amount of things in order for people to stay with me, or I have to behave in a certain way, or I have to do whatever it is in your head. That the universe tends to bring us over and over and over again the essence of what that is and what that looks like until we can turn around and start to clean it up. And oftentimes we see over and over and over again, somebody in a haunting situation, which I see quite frequently, where a family, for instance, is moving again and again and again. And by the time they get to me, they're house poor, and they're going, hey, wait a minute, we don't know what to do. We can't afford to move again. This is following us everywhere. What do we do about it? And the problem is not the houses that they're moving to. They're not, bad real estate buyers. They're not, they're not doing anything wrong. The problem often is the fact that the consistent factor that they're moving from place to place, to job, to relationship is them. They're the consistent factor in the whole in the whole shaboodle. So we have to start to look at what are those consistent variables, and most often it is us. It's us, and that's good and bad news. It's good and bad news because the good news is it's you. The bad news is it's you. So we have to be able to examine it and change that, because ultimately, if we don't move that forward, that lesson, because there's always something in there that's teaching. There's always something in there that's teaching us. Will repeat itself again and again and again, and we will see it come up over and over until we start to heal whatever that is in us that is creating this conscious reality that we're manifesting. It's very interesting. Life is really what you think it is. Okay, so, and this is what we were kind of talking about yesterday when I said that we have to really be careful about our language. For those of you guys who weren't here yesterday, we did a really great class on how we were framing our language. So how we were labeling things. Are we using catastrophic language to speak things into existence? Because when we speak, we give life. Right? We give life to what we speak. And the more we've got our attention on something, the more we start to see it expand in our world and in our universe. And the thing is, here's the catch too, is that it will expand in your universe. It doesn't necessarily expand in other people's. That's the other thing. So one of the things that I've noticed is in the area of, for example, trying to convince other people, right? You're trying to convince other people of your reality. And I see this all the time in paranormal cases, because of course you might have 2 or 3 people in a home that are experiencing vastly different phenomena, and maybe one's experiencing nothing at all. One might be experiencing like absolutely nothing. And you've got all of these people that are trying to convince each other of their realities. But the thing is that the way things are proportioned in this world is that our realities, that we have a few joint realities, because we have to agree on something, or else we can't meet up for lunch and stuff like that. But the thing is that, when our attention to things is a very individual process. It's very individual. So our ability to tune into, all of these things that we're giving our attention to is going to be individually dependent. So we can't assume that just because that person is tuned into one thing means that they're tuned into what you are focused on, or what you are turned into. You might end up being on very different pages, and neither of you might be wrong. Neither of you might be wrong. You're just creating your own experience and your own reality as you focus. So your focus is creating this world around you, and it might not be the world that somebody else is creating. It doesn't mean that it's wrong. It just means that you've got the power to manifest your reality versus something going on in somebody else's. So as soon as we start to take our hands off the wheel a little bit, then we can start to create and understand the lessons that are literally designed and created by our own needs, our own desires, our own functioning, and things that we need to understand. Most lessons, get a load of this, most lessons have to do with worthiness. Most of them. Isn't that interesting? Most of them. One of the things that I've noticed, interestingly, with a lot of negative hauntings, is that so many of the dysfunctions or the toxicities that people are struggling with, that end up mirrored back to them by a negative haunting that's around them, what ends up happening is that it's almost always a reflection of something to do with a disconnection of our own worthiness of who we think we are. And it's very fascinating. So whether you're, somebody is coming out of an abusive relationship, or, dealing with, not feeling like they have enough, or not feeling there's something going on every single time that usually has to do with some sense of unworthiness in whoever that is. Now, when we get into things like some of the territorial hauntings and things like that, things can be a little bit different, but something is putting you on the frequency of whatever that negativity is that's going on. Something has to do it. And what is so interesting to me is how we miss the lesson so often because we get so focused on the behavior that's happening, whether it be the bad behavior from somebody in our life, the bad behavior from, something going on in our house, whether it be a haunting or whatever it looks like in your world. And we get really hung up on the idea that in order to fix it, we have to be able to grab onto it and change whatever's going on out there. And it's never to do with that. It's never to do with that. We have to grasp the lesson as to what it is this is trying to teach us. So if we can run into problems and get into problems in that way, if we can dig our nails into that and start to look at, wait a minute, hold up, you were pushing a button in me, you are trying to teach me something about myself, because that button would not be there to be pushed had it not been for something that's already activated in me to begin with. So it's something to really start to think about. And often the way to maneuver in these situations, because we get this type of thing, so frequently in our lives over and over again, because let me tell you, the universe will repeat this stuff until you get it. It will repeat it until you get it. It just will. And, if you don't get it the first time, don't worry. It'll get bigger. It'll get worse. It'll get worse the next time. We have to be able to stop and clean it up. So one of the ways to do that, and I think that is so important, is to have a vision. Have a vision for what you want. What do you want in your experience? How can you see what it is that you want unfolding in a positive way? That's the other thing that people really struggle with, is that they think they want something, and then as soon as they start to try to work out in their brains how to do it, we start to see a breakdown, because people begin to imagine all of these horrible ways or frustrating ways or terrible ways that this is going to unfold. And often they will talk themselves right out of what they want. They'll talk themselves right out of the vision. I think the second big point to make about this is that what we see and what we believe is not always reality. It's not always reality. We see such a very small portion of this experience and this world. We see such a tiny portion of it. And I thought there was a story by Miss Iyanla Vanzant that really stuck with me. And I thought this was so prevalent to this. At one point, she had been getting her eyes checked out because she didn't know she needed glasses at the time. And she went out and she went to the optometrist, and they said, oh yeah, you need glasses. And she couldn't understand it. She was like, what do you mean I need glasses? I can't, my vision is fine. That's cool. I don't need this. But what was happening was that her eyes were actually adjusting. Her brain and her eyes and her functioning was adjusting to the level of deficiency that her eyes were actually showing. And this is often so much what we do in our experience, is we adjust to our deficiencies, and then we turn around and we call it normal. And that's not good. In life, we make these deficiencies up often. That's the crappy part. We tend to create them in our heads. And how often do we actually adjust ourselves to fit what someone else tells us we cannot do? Like a lot, probably a lot. Our deficiencies are built in a number of different ways, and unless we can start to take a look at some of what that is, and realize what that is, we can then start to realize the potential that we've actually got sitting there. And usually a lot of this stuff and a lot of these creations and the things that we want to do, it's really right on the surface. So being able to have that long vision, it's just so important. But the stories that we tell ourselves become habit, and we forget that they can become a habit. So whatever it is going on, and then of course we start to see all these things pop up around us. We start to attract this stuff. We start to attract, more news stories about things that, scare us, or we start to attract, more information that's negative information or wrong information. That's the big thing right now with the pandemic going on that I've been noticing frequently with people, is that, once they get on a a role with one form of misinformation, then we start to see that kind of snowball over and over and over again, and they start to attract more wrong information about it. And we've got to realize that whatever is coming into our experience is a reflection of what our mindset is about it. So it's like confirmation bias. We will end up bringing into our experience, and remember, it's only our experience, it's only yours, evidence of what it is that you are believing about this subject. So I always question people when I turn around and say, well, how are you doing? What story is it that you want to be telling about how it is that you're doing? What story do you want to tell? Because you are creating what you speak. You are creating in your experience about what this is. So if you're telling a story about well-being, if your vision is about well-being and abundance and all of these things, then the great thing is you are going to pull evidence of that well-being and abundance into your experience. And if you're focusing on fear and sickness and unhealth and all the things that are wrong with the world, then you are going to attract more and more evidence of all these things that are going on that are wrong. It doesn't mean to turn around and not be aware, but we have to be careful about how we are framing what that begins to look like. We really do, because we are creating in our experience, not in other people's. So it's something to continue, something to think about. So how do we do this? How do we bring that into our experience? What do we do? And I think one of the first things we have to do is we have to be able to affirm what that vision is every single day. It's the creative force of the universe, that whole I am. I am. What are you finishing that sentence with? I am blank. And know why you're doing it. Have the clarity to know why you're doing it. Make sure that it's not somebody else's thing that's going on. Is it someone else's thing? Are you doing it because, it was your parents' dream for you to go do whatever it is? Is it sucking the life out of you because, do you have a vision? Do you have a vision? Have a daily spiritual practice with this. Listen. Just listen. Figure out how you can be still and listen to that guidance that's coming in, because it will. It's there. It's always there. But being able, again, to stop, to reframe, get in alignment with that abundance, and then start to listen, practice and be still. You don't have to know how it's going to happen. There's the other key. You don't have to know how it's going to happen. But by doing those specific things, you start to give space for that to actually show up. It's interesting. I do a fire trick, and if you guys end up taking that course in parapsychology, you actually might see it. One of these days, when it gets nice enough outside, I will do a fire performance for you guys on spiritual healthcare, because I think that'd be really cool. What's so interesting is that when I'm doing what they call a vapor trick, which is holding the vapor of the fuel in my mouth and letting it escape and then igniting it, most people think that what I'm doing is actually breathing out and forcing the air out, forcing the vapors out and lighting those vapors. And that's not what's actually happening at all. What's actually happening is, depending on the shape of my mouth, I can allow these vapors to release and escape, and then change the shape of the vapor based on what I'm doing with my mouth, and then ignite the fumes. So it's a very subtle difference, because what I'm doing is changing what I'm doing. I'm changing what I'm doing. I'm not changing what the vapor's doing. I'm changing what I'm doing. I'm changing the tempo of how it is held. I allow it to hold space. I allow myself to hold space for it, and then allow that to catch fire and ignite. So it's a very different process than what a lot of people think. They think it's something where I'm forcing it out of my mouth, and it's not that at all. Fire breathing is a little bit different. With fire breathing, it's a different technique. But with vapor tricks, you're holding the space for that natural fume or chemical or anything to be on its own, because it will do the work. It will do the work. So it's a similar process to the universe and God and source and whatever you want to call it, and how some of this stuff works. Hold the space. But if you're turning around and you're trying to jam it into place, you're trying to push forward and push through it and fight and you've got a bad tape going on in your head about what this is going to look like and whatnot, you're not holding space for it. You're just not. There's no trust in it. So at the end of the day, it really becomes about being able to, be clear, being able to have that trust, and be still enough to recognize the patterns, whatever you've got going on, that just isn't working. And some of it has to do, as I say, with what we talked about yesterday, which is reframing. It's really important. And on that note, I wanted to share with you guys an awesome reading that I didn't get a chance to get to yesterday because we kind of ran out of time. But it is so applicable to this. And it is from our wonderful book, Faith in the Valley by Miss Iyanla, which I thought was kind of fitting considering we just talked about that story. And so I wanted to offer this to you guys and let you chew on this for a bit. The question is, what are you willing to do to get what you say you want? Are you willing to discipline your mind and your mouth? Are you willing to get up early, stay up late, and work hard on all the hours in between? Are you willing to work for free? Are you willing to do it with excellence? Are you willing to do it even when your best friend shakes her head, laughs at you, and tells you you're crazy? The question is, what are you willing to give up to get what you say you want? Are you willing to give up bad habits, negative thinking, and negative people? Are you willing to take a risk and put your butt on the line when all the signs indicate that you are totally insane? Are you willing to stand up for yourself, to speak up for yourself? Are you willing to walk away from the people who will be very upset when you stand and speak up? Are you willing to walk away from everything you now know to get something and be someplace you can only hope will be what you want it to be? The question is, who are you willing to be? Are you willing to be a free and independent thinker? Are you willing to be the one who calls the shots? Are you willing to have fun? Are you willing to live in total peace and joy? Are you willing to have fun and joy in total peace all by yourself if necessary? As long as you can find one excuse not to answer these questions affirmatively, you will never have what you say you want. And I love that. And I found that to be absolutely true in my experience. And it's so funny because, throughout the years that I've been doing this, I've been doing Entity Seeker for almost 20 years now. Like, it's just crazy. And that is one thing that I have learned. And sometimes it is in the success when people decide that they've had enough with you, because it's easier to put up with a broken heart and empathize with a broken heart than it is with a full one. So it's something to be mindful of. Now, that being said, I've given you guys your process today. I don't need to do that anymore. But I wanted to give you guys a to-do, and I will post this on the Entity Seeker Facebook page. And it is the Sanskrit rules. And it is the coolest thing. It is the Sanskrit rules for being human. And they are absolutely incredible. And I think if you guys have a printer or anything like that, or you want to put this up as your wallpaper at home, on your desktop and things like that, I think it's brilliant. They are fantastic reminders of all of this. The first is you will receive a body. The second is you will learn lessons. The third is there are no mistakes, only lessons. The fourth is a lesson will be repeated until it's learned. The fifth is learning lessons does not end. We never get it done. The sixth is there is no better than here. 7 is others are only a mirror of you. The 8th is what you make of your life is up to you. 9 is life is exactly what you think it is. 10 is your answers lie inside you. 11, you will forget all of this. And 12 is you can remember it whenever you want. So I am going to post those for you guys, and you guys can print them out or do whatever you want to do with those, because I think it's absolutely on the money and totally valid. So we can't go into our day today without our health affirmations. I know it's very rainy and chilly here. I think the windows are going to stay closed today, at least until it warms up a little bit here. We've got some serious rain going on. But it's supposed to be very nice tomorrow, so that's awesome. So, everybody take a breath. It is natural for my body to be well. Even if I don't know what to do in order to get better, my body does. I have trillions of cells with individual consciousness, and they know how to achieve their individual balance. When this condition began, I didn't know what I know now. I don't need to understand the cause of this illness. I only have to gently, eventually release this illness. It doesn't matter how it got started, because it's reversing its course right now. And there's no hurry about any of this. My body knows what to do. Well-being is natural to me. My inner being is intricately aware of my physical body, and my cells are asking for what they need in order to thrive, and Source is answering those requests. I'm in very good hands. My only work is to relax and breathe, and I can do that easily. And everybody take a breath. Thank you all for another awesome spiritual healthcare morning, as we always have every day. It's so great. Tomorrow is day 46. Holy crap, just crazy. It's just crazy. So anyway, I hope you guys have an amazing day. I hope this was helpful. And to get everybody rolling in understanding as to why some of this stuff happens again and again and again and again, and why it seems to continue to, you know, some of these bad patterns can be repeating itself in your life. And I have to say at the same time as well, is to take a look at the good habits and the good patterns as well. Figure out what you're doing right. What are you doing right? We're going to talk a little bit more about that tomorrow, as well as a few other paranormally things. As usual, I will post a link to the new parapsychology course, Art and Parapsychology from Winbridge, on the Entity Seeker page, so that you guys can access that if you want. As I say, I'm so proud to be a part of that. It's so much fun, and I hope it is a learning experience for those of you guys who decide to sign up for it. So anyway, have a wonderful day, you guys, and I will talk to you all tomorrow, 10 a.m. Mountain Time, right here for Spiritual Healthcare. So bye.